Hi there. This is from a chouette. A chouette is a game generally played sometimes for money if you're a gambler, but lots of us don't believe in gambling and we just play for the sport of it. And occasionally we might put a wager on the game, like loser buys a drink or loser buys dinner or something. But there are people out there who do like to gamble, and the USBGF is not in favor of promoting backgammon for money or gambling. We're really trying to grow the game, and especially when I go around the country working with young children and giving seminars and teaching backgammon at schools, we are not at all talking about the gambling aspects of the game. Any game or sport could involve money and gambling, but backgammon purely is a wonderful uh, intellectual experience. Just playing matches, just as if you were playing chess or any other intellectual game. We think it's fabulous because of the math skills that it teaches and the life skills it teaches, learning how to deal with uncertainty and good and bad luck and good and bad sportsmanship. And I don't have to tell you all just what a good game it is intellectually. But occasionally people do get together and play in chouettes, and I've done this a couple of times in my life. And I was doing this on Friday afternoon with some friends and a nice social game, and I was red, and white is on roll here, and white doubled me. I've got two checkers on the roof, on the bar, and white doubled. Um, and I think it's a very fine double. I won't debate that. Should you take or drop? What would you do if you were red? And pretend that you might be playing for just a little bit of money, like we might do sometimes. Would you? So there's something at stake. For intellectually, you certainly would take every cube, and that's one of the reasons that you put something on it, or if nothing else, you've got your pride to do the right thing. And I always want to try to do the right thing. Would you take or drop if you're red? Okay. Uh, the answer is it's a huge take. It would be very, very wrong to drop this cube. Yes, it looks scary. If white rolls a 5, he hits a third checker. If he rolls an 8, he makes this point, and he's got a 5-point board. This looks like you could get gammoned quite a bit, and the truth is you do get gammoned quite a bit, 37% of the time. But you win about 40% of the time, according to Extreme Gammon, and sometimes you turn things around and gammon your opponent too. But I am not above admitting that I have made a mistake or two in my life. And this was one of the biggest blunders I've made in a chouette in maybe in an hour or two. A 46% mistake. I dropped this cube. I really thought I saw visions of huge gammons here. I saw a lot more than 40% gammons if things go wrong. I didn't see that easily how things could go right for me, and I really, really blundered. Now, I'm a pretty good player, and so are all the players in our chouette. It's not that unusual to make this big a blunder on a cube. It really isn't, and that's why I'm not embarrassed to admit that this happens occasionally. Not usually, but this is not a normal position. This is not something you see every day, and I just didn't see it. I just didn't understand that this was a take until I put it in Extreme Gammon and started counting how often does he cover? How often do I hit him? What does it look like after I hit him? What if I just roll a 6 and come in on the next roll? Even if he covers, how long is it going to take? And what are the odds of him closing his board before I come in with a couple of 6s? And if I do hit him along the way, how soon will I be able to recube him? So all of these things started occurring to me as soon as I saw that I was wrong. Now, why do I know this position? Why do I have this position at all? Because at the moment that I was doubled and I found myself being unsure, I took out my iPhone and took a quick picture. I do that constantly. And then I go home, or even during the game while somebody else is playing and it's their turn, I'll run over to my computer if I bring it with me, which I often do, and put it in immediately because I want to learn. I would rather know what's right and what's wrong in these positions. As a matter of fact, I'd rather be playing the whole chouette on a computer. And I often play my matches on the computer, so I don't have to go through the trouble of taking a picture and putting it in. I'm playing this game for the beauty of knowing how to play and the challenge of the game. And I really blew it. So what do I do when I blew it? And what do I do when I don't understand it? I must tell you, even after looking at it, it shocks me that this is that big a mistake to drop. It shocks me that red has this good a game. So what do I tell my students when they don't understand a position or they don't fully understand a position? Aside from examining all of the possible rolls that can happen next time, how many times does he cover? How many times does he roll a 5? What if he rolled a 5-3? He can't hit and cover with a 5-3. How many times does he not cover? Then how many times do I come in? Doing all that intellectually is a good way to study a position. Another good way to study the position is to play it out a few times. So what does that mean? The first thing I do, well, let's put these two checkers back in the bar. I hit Control C. I hold down the Control button and C for Charlie, and that now pastes this position onto the clipboard of my computer so that I can put the position back whenever I want by hitting Control V for Victor. I also have saved this position so I don't lose it. It's saved as Friday number 2. There were several positions that I thought were interesting enough to save. So how do I play this out? Well, I'm going to play it out against Extreme Gammon, and I'm going to assume Extreme Gammon is white and plays perfectly, and then I'm going to see how I should play this position. That's one way to play it out and get a feel for it, and not necessarily play it out to the end. Play it out until there's a resolution of this position, until white has either won overwhelmingly and destroyed me, or red has pretty well come back and is able to recube, and that usually is going to happen within 4 or 5 rolls, maybe even less, and at the end of that time I'll be able to see just how often red recovers here. According to Extreme Gammon, red's going to win this game about 40% of the time. Yes, of course, when he loses he gets gammoned a lot, but let's see how that 40% happens. Let's see how it unfolds. So I go to Setup, Play from Position. I'll make myself the bottom player, which is on top, by the way. This is always a little confusing for people. I'm not wild about that either. And change it down to Extreme Gammon, and I'm going to play Extreme Gammon at a very high level so he doesn't make any mistakes. And let's see, if I was playing a perfect opponent, why I should be taking a cube instead of a 40% error and dropping. And hit OK.
Double.
So he doubles. By the way, it's let me turn the volume up so we can hear Extreme Gammon and the dice. But there's something else I want to do too. I'm going to go to Options, Board Configuration, and I'm going to slow the game down so that the checkers don't move too fast. I go to Animations, and the higher these numbers, the slower the computer will play. And I want it to play slow because I want to watch what's happening. I want to see what moves he makes. I don't want it to each move to happen too quickly. I usually have it set pretty fast, but now I'm going to apply this. Hit OK. I'm going to take the cube.
Take.
That was interesting that he slid in that way and made those moves, but double one was probably one of his worst rolls because he couldn't bring another builder down and or cover or hit or anything. So how does this position look now after my opponent rolls double ones? That's interesting. He's got some really bad rolls there. I didn't realize that. Double one, 2-1, 3-1. Those are all pretty bad rolls. 2-1 wouldn't be quite as terrible because the 2 would come up to here, which would make it easier for him to get out and harder for me to hit him. So this is probably one of his worst rolls. I'm interested in this, by the way. Let's take a look at that. Double one is how he played it. Instead of these 3 to here and that one there, he made the 2 point and left this open. Oh, I see why. It doesn't duplicate his 5s, a 4 to cover and a 5 to hit. And by having this point open instead of the 3 point open, he's got more ways to cover by rolling 9s from here that will also cover instead of 10s from here. So there's real logic to watching the moves of a wonderful top player like Extreme Gammon, and I can learn something. I'm not sure I would have played double ones that way. There's a saying, every discipline action brings multiple rewards. Well, this is a multiple reward that I get to see these different rolls. I'm just curious to see how bad a roll double one was. I suspect it's one of the worst. Let's look at all of White's possible rolls. That's another way for me to understand the position. I go to Analyze, Dice Distribution. I'm right. He rolled his very worst roll. Now that he's rolled his very worst roll, by the way, he had some incredibly good rolls. Double 4, 6, 5, double 2. All the numbers that covered or hit me were great rolls. Double 6 and double 5 are also pretty good. And then look at all the bad rolls he had that did nothing for him, that weren't that good. Wow. 5 hits me, and even the 5s that hit me aren't considered really great rolls for him because he doesn't do anything. The action and the important things that happen are on this side of the board. Hitting this checker wasn't that big a thing after all. That's one of the reasons I dropped. I thought getting the third checker back increases my gammon so much, but in the long run it will, but in the short run, whether or not he closes the board or whether I hit him or make an anchor is what this game is all about. That's what's going to turn this game around. Wow, I'm seeing this much more graphically here. I can now see why when all these bad rolls happen, it looks like it's more than half the rolls are bad. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 of his rolls are actually pretty bad. That means that there are only 10 rolls that were really, really great for him. So the majority of his rolls aren't that good for him. I guess that's another reason why I should have taken. Okay, anyway, he rolled the double one. It's my roll. Now, it doesn't take brain surgery to figure out that I'm going to hit him 11 out of 36 times, and another 11 times I'm going to come in with a 6. That's 20 out of 36 times. There's 11 6s and there's 11 4s. You might think that's 22 ways that are good for me, except we can't count 4 6 twice. 4 6, when I counted the 11 4s, I already counted 4 6. So when I count the 11 6s, I have to subtract 4 6 and 6 4. So there's 20 good numbers for me out of 36 right now. And both of those numbers are pretty good. Even if I just roll a 6 and come in, he's got a dilemma. He's got a problem. Even if he is lucky enough to roll a 4 next time, one more 6 for me. I've got this 6-point anchor, and I've got a pretty decent game going here. But what if I roll a 4? Wow. Well, let's see what the dice gods have in store for me this game. Oops. He hits, gets another builder in place. Now that's interesting too. He brought this builder to here, which is not a direct builder for the 4-point. Lots of people, including me, would have thought strongly about bringing the 6 down to here to have double direct coverage. But he doesn't want to leave that many blots around the board. I think that's the major problem. If I do roll a 4 and hit him, and he's got all these blots scattered around the board, and if he doesn't come in right away, and he's not going to come in 16 out of 36 times, he might not be too happy having all these blots around the board. I might be too good to redouble after a couple of shots here. So I can see why he made that play. Let's see how wrong it would have been to play down to here. Gosh, you learn a lot while playing these out. Well, the answer is that's the second best play, which is close, is bringing 2 out to here, not even bringing the checker to there, and playing the 13 to 7. It looks like it's only about a 4.5% error. But there's something else that I've learned. This is in 4-ply. I want this taken to a higher court. I don't trust 4-ply. I really trust XG Roller Plus and Plus Plus much better. And of course, Plus Plus is even better than Plus. And if you want to be really, really sure about the play, you have to roll it out. But Plus Plus is pretty sure. I'm very confident now when I see this that it's about a 4% error to play down to here. I'm pretty sure that's the wrong play, even without a rollout. Sometimes it will change. Extreme Gammon Plus Plus is not perfect, but it's very, very good and good enough for my purposes now. I'm not going to take the time up. If I really thought strongly that that was the right play, then I would roll it out, and then I'd try and figure out why that's the wrong play, but I think I already had the answer about too many blots and also getting stuck back here and so on. Okay, so let's see what the dice gods have in store for me now. Oh, now I'm not real happy, but look, he still didn't cover. 3 rolls, and even though I hit another checker, I've still got a great roll with any 4. It doesn't win me the game, but I'm right in this game if I can roll a 4. I'm doing pretty good. Now, you can say he was unlucky not to cover, but you can also say I was unlucky not to hit. But I don't focus on the luck stuff. I only care about what are the odds and how am I playing. Let's roll and see how I can play this. All right, I came in with a 6. That's not so hot anymore. Double, 2. Oh, I know what happens here. Now my goose is cooked. Let's take a look at what the odds are now. Now he's an 88% favorite to win, and I'm going to get gammon 72% of the time. If I had taken this cube, I would be, assuming we had been playing for money, I would be costing myself quite a bit. And some people believe that there's money management involved in these kinds of things, but that's not my theory at all. I'm against money management. I'm in favor of doing what the right odds are. You should never, if you are ever playing for money, you should never play in a game where you can't afford to take an 8 cube or a 16 cube and get gammoned. Because if that's the case and the pressure is such that it's the amount of loss that's stopping you, then you're in the wrong game. You should be playing in a lower stakes game or not playing at all. So I don't have that fear, and I make sure that I don't have that fear, or else I'm going to cost myself. And also, I'd be focusing on money, which is not my goal when I play backgammon. I want to focus on doing the right thing and learning and enjoying the game for the intellectual stimulation of the game. But I must tell you, I'm kind of relieved I didn't take this cube this time. In this sequence, as long as it took him to not cover, and as long as it took me to come in, I'm sure pretty happy I didn't take this. Now, did this prove anything? Does this prove that I was right? Absolutely not. This proved that I was right one time so far. Well, I knew from the very beginning when I started this game that it was going to work out very, very badly a lot of the time. I knew that White is going to win the game more than I was, and he was going to gammon me more than I was. The question is, did I have a take? Let's take a look at the original position again. I'm going to hit Control and V as in Victor, and that pastes the original position right back in. And let's look at the numbers once more. I'm going to lose this game 60% of the time, and I'm going to get gammon 36% of the time, but I'm going to win gammon 17% of the time. Why is this a take? Because my break even in the game is 25%, and that's my basic take point. However, holding the cube is worth something. So I can really take, generally speaking, around 21.5% because of the power of the cube. So that's my take point. Well, this doesn't look like it's more than that, but it's a lot more than that. And the way you do that is, let's say I'm getting gammon about 37%, but I'm winning gammons about 17%. That's net gammons of about 20%. Now, gammons are only worth half as much as winning and losing the game. So those 20 gammons is really only worth about 10 games, the equivalent of winning or losing 10 games. And I've explained those ratios in other videos. And by the way, if this is the first video you're looking at, or you've only looked at recent videos, you can go into the USBGF website and look at BG problems and look at dozens of my videos that I posted over the last several months for the benefit of USBGF members, and you'll see a lot of different positions that I go through, not quite in much detail as this, not as long as this. But anyway, if I've got 10 game losses and I subtract that from the 40 games that I win, that's a net of 30. My take point's 21.5. That's why it's such a huge, huge take. Now, playing it out one time doesn't prove a thing, but it gave me an idea of how the game plays out. I really need to do this 10, 15, or more times until I can really see why red wins this game enough. I think I already am. I'm looking at that dice distribution. I now know this is a blunder. I hope when a position just like this comes up again that I'm smart enough to remember and take it. And that's a big part of learning in backgammon too. You don't just learn things by logically reasoning through every one each time. You need to start with some references and some reference positions. And we develop in our brain a library through our memory of references. And unfortunately, when you just play, you may have wrong references. If I just dropped this cube and saw this position and didn't take a picture of it and study it, I would have learned nothing, and my reference would have been that these are drops, and from then on I would have always dropped this. By the way, the people in the chouette, nobody said, oh, well, I'll bet you that's a take, which often happens when somebody makes a blunder. I do it myself. If I see somebody make a really horrible drop or a really horrible take, I'm looking for an opportunity to say, well, you want to bet me a drink or something? That is that was a take and that you made the wrong play or whatever. We do that all the time. We challenge each other, and it's great because that's how we really push each other to learn. And nobody did that in our chouette. In fact, a couple of people said, "Yeah, yeah, that looks like a big drop." By the way, I was in the box. There were several people playing against me, and if I had taken, I would have had to take several players, or I would have had to take at least two of them. And so I'm giving I'm playing against two at once, so they have two brains instead of one, instead of my half brain playing the position, and I'm risking two cubes instead of one cube, and so on. Of course, the rewards are greater too if I turn it around. Anyway, this is how I really examine a position. That was through one time, and I even learned something about the checker plays immediately watching Extreme Gammon. I'm not saying I would have made the wrong play, but I was surprised. I think in time I might have made the right play on both of the plays that I saw Extreme Gammon make, but it certainly helped me understand how this game plays out more and how to play my checkers better. It's a great exercise. It starts with having a thirst for knowledge and then getting the right tools, which is Extreme Gammon, and learning how to use it. And if you have trouble using it, send me an email and I can help you. I help develop a lot of Extreme Gammon, and I'm a consultant and do beta testing. This is a new one right now that I'm beta testing for Xavier that will be having many upgrades and changes on the next version. So, again, thanks for watching. Hope this was interesting for you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.